Good morning to Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, County Administrator Issues and Updates at 10 a.m. on March 30th, 2021. Gary Schmidt, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Smith. All commissioners are present except Commissioner Schrader, who will be coming in any moment now. With your indulgence, I'm going to flip the agenda quickly and ask our one consent agenda request. Can you believe it? Just one today.
Wow.
Mike Besner from Transportation and Development. He's online, so he doesn't have to wait. I'll call on him first. This is a request, approval of a contract with Baker Rock Crushing Company, doing business as Baker Rock Resources, for the All Roads Transportation Safety, or ARTS, Rural Systemic Safety Project. The total cost is $929,648.65, all paid from the Transportation and Development Project Fund, no general funds. Mike, please go ahead.
Thank you, Gary, and glad to have the only item for you this week. This project, it's going to install updated horizontal alignment warning signs over throughout the county in lots of different areas over more than 100 miles of county roads. We're also going to do safety signs and pavement markings at 82 rural intersections. This is all a data-based approach to help save lives and treat our whole system to make it safer. Of the $929,000, $857,000 comes from the grant, and $72,000 only comes from county road funds. So we're looking for permission to put this on consent.
Sounds great. Commissioners, do we have a head nod on this?
Yes.
Christina, the light is on.
Commissioner Savas has his hand raised.
Yeah, Commissioner Savas, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, if I heard you right, you said horizontal signage. So is that things like chevrons?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm good to go.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Good job on the grants.
Yep, thanks, Mike. All right, so we'll add it to the consent agenda. That's the only consent agenda request. Thank you. Now back to the regular agenda, new travel policy. We have Krista Wolf from Finance. I'm not sure if Elizabeth is also presenting. If so, please bring her in. This is a quick update before we potentially go to an issues session or policy session. So, Krista, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. So Krista Wolf, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about our proposed new travel policy this morning. So after some review, and as you know, we have had a ban on travel, the Finance Department has taken that opportunity and that time to review our current travel processes and procedures, the procedures we use, the forms, the requirements with the IRS, and we found the Finance Department is in need of some updates for our travel policy. And we've gone through the process of putting out a draft travel policy, as well as related procedures and FAQs and a very thorough manual. That those documents have been reviewed together by HR, by our council, and by our new policy committee as well. And so what we would like to do is we're recommending that we bring this before you to have an in-depth conversation about our new travel policy that we have prepared, to have the board review that, and to potentially put in place a new policy by July 1st of this year. So we would be ready to go before we resume travel with a post-COVID environment. And we put together a memo that details some of the changes for you. You can have questions about the memo.
So what does that mean for commissioners?
This policy would apply to elected officials as well for travel. It outlines the processes and procedures that would need to be followed. And the other thing that would apply to commissioners as well is this does require BCC approval. Some of our policies, you may be well aware that our county administrator has approved. However, travel has previously been approved by the board. And in order for it to apply to elected officials, council has recommended that this would go in front of the board. And
I'm going to interrupt, Krista. Gary?
Yeah, so this simply is to be compliant with the Internal Revenue Service because we're currently not. And the only reason it's coming before you is because it includes you as elected officials.
Okay.
And therefore you have to adopt the policy.
There's
I can't
really
do
no
it.
different procedures for us if we have the opportunity to travel. Costs are reimbursed, we have to keep track of those costs, and only travel-related costs. Am I correct, Krista?
Yes, exactly. This is really clarifying rules, giving examples, and tightening up policy and procedures where perhaps there was a lack of clarity in the past.
Paul, are you in the queue?
Yeah, so I'm okay with whatever it takes to get this, approved. So whatever steps, I'm good to go. But I do have a question in that it just drew my curiosity into, knowing that tomorrow, as we have, when we normalize in the near future here, travel might look different, and being the virtual aspects of meetings and conferences and so forth. Just wondering how much money, I certainly know roughly how much the travel, averages are for, the 5 commissioners, for example, but it can't be anywhere near as great a number as the travel for our staff and for all the functions and so forth. But knowing that a lot of those things have come to a halt, do we have really an estimate of how much our annual travel is, or how much money we have indirectly saved as a result of this last year? I mean, we've got to be able to put a price tag around that right now.
I don't have the figures in front of me today, but we can certainly look into that.
Is it possible it's like 6 or 7 figures?
I would expect it to be very low this year, simply because
No. I meant the delta, the savings, is that the annual cost is probably about 7 figures.
You know what? This
Could be,
is,
but
just
we
a
should
minute,
look.
Krista, what staff has asked for today, Paul, is that we take this up at a policy session. So if we want to submit our questions to Krista, she can bring them back at a policy session, and we all can, and I am interested in the question you ask. I am really curious about how much money we have saved on travel with COVID, and whether it's to our benefit to travel in some things or not to travel in some things. And I think that bears some really good discussion on that. And so, staff, do we agree that we can take this up in issues when we can get it scheduled, Gary?
Yes, so we'll answer the travel cost question. And yes, I believe it'd be over $1 million at least for the entire county, but we'll confirm that.
Wow.
So we'll get that answer, but for today, we're simply asking, can we schedule a policy session for you to discuss this?
Paul, yeah, and so, folks, commissioners, if you have any more questions on the travel policy, please, if we can get them ahead of time, and maybe our staff can have, the data for us. Thank you very much. Gary, next.
Thank you, Krista. Next, a legislative update, in particular earmark priorities. You had a memo I sent to you yesterday. We have Chris Lyons and Trent Wilson from Public and Government Affairs. As efficiently as you can lead this, please, gentlemen.
Morning, Commissioners. We are here before you today to seek your approval on the county's list of priority projects for congressional earmark funding this year. As you know, after a decade-long prohibition on congressionally directed spending, Congress is officially resurrecting earmarks this year. So this will allow our delegation members to pursue local projects for funding at the federal level through the appropriations process. And I'll reiterate at the start, and we will reiterate through this presentation, that this process has been extremely fluid in terms of knowing what the various criteria are going to be for earmark consideration, knowing what the deadlines are going to be for member offices seeking projects. So a lot of that is still being worked out. So just be aware that the process is continuing to evolve. So in your memo today, we've identified, working with departments and Summit Strategies, projects for BCC consideration as potential priorities. These also reflect the board's MFR priorities. And we've looked to put forward projects that we would assume are competitive based on their readiness and based on their local match availability. And there are really 2 buckets to think about in this process. There's appropriations earmarks, which Trent will walk you through in a minute. And then the second bucket is the Build Back Better infrastructure package, which will, actually, we should hear more about from DC tomorrow. But more than likely, that will also include the transportation reauthorization bill as part of it. So Trent will take it over from here, and then I'll come in at the end and walk through the transportation reauthorization.
Yeah, and before Trent gets in and speaks, it says guidance from our national partner, Summit Strategies. By chance, are they online or listening to this? Do we know?
No.
Okay, thank you, Trent. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I have the honor of walking through our appropriations earmarks. We've been working with the departments for the last couple of months on trying to figure out projects that the board is familiar with, but also that would be ready to go for something that might be eligible for an award within a variety of subcommittees at the federal congressional level. So it's been challenging. As Chris was saying, this is a very fluid process. We've been guessing based on work that's happened 10 years ago when earmarks used to be real. Then there was a big gap. Now it's real again. So it's been a moving goalpost for us. But the projects we have before you, we have 3, and as Chris mentioned, and as you mentioned, Chair Smith, Summit Strategies recommended probably no more than 4 within the appropriations process. These are small awards, usually small awards. I'm using air quotes when I say small because we're still talking about millions of dollars, but compared to the projects Chris will be talking about, which are dozens of millions of dollars, that'll be a different group of funding. So what we have in here for you is the Willamette Falls Lock Seismic Upgrades. This is a project that Commissioner Schrader and others would be familiar with as well. This is to finish the work. This is to finish the work that the Army Corps of Engineers set out to do with their disposition study. These are seismic upgrades to gates 6 and 7 on the upper Willamette locks that would just seismically secure the upper Willamette pool. And that's the funding that they need to finish that work. The next project, which would be so that was a project that doesn't belong to Clackamas County, but that it's a project that we support, and we would have to support that through the appropriations process. But projects that we do have here at Clackamas County are the next 2, which are the Sandy Health Clinic, which is a project that is underway, and this funding would help return some of the funds that are committed to that project and return it back to services. That's a $1.6 million request. And then similarly, the boring treatment plant decommissioning pump station project, which I believe you're familiar with. Similarly, the work is moving forward. I believe the funding's been moving forward, but a $1.5 million request would return some of that funding to the services and also make the rate, make it more eligible for ratepayers to be able to respond to that financial burden.
Before you continue, Trent, I have a quick question. We have the Willamette Falls Locks seismic upgrades listed on the earmarks, and we also have it for Build Back Better. And those 2 are different.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have our seismic upgrades, which is different from the operational repairs. And that could be a little bit confusing for some folks. I'm a little bit surprised that it's listed this way, because as old as that locks I'm not sure what the proper, to get it operational in the second allocation, I would think the seismic upgrades would have to be automatically addressed.
These are excellent questions. I'm sorry, I'm going to use my hands to do some of this. There's what the Corps has to do to turn the locks over to a new owner, and then there's everything else that a new owner might have to do to repair the locks to full operation to allow boats to go back through it. The Army Corps of Engineers is required to do these seismic upgrades on just a very small section of the locks before they can transfer the facility to a new owner. And that was authorized in December of 2020 through the WRDA bill, Water Resource Development Act. It's a very specific amount of work for a very small section of the project. And that's a requirement by the Corps to do work.
Okay.
The other funding is, honestly, it's an opportunistic approach to pursue some of this infrastructure funding to help the Army Corps of Engineers get that project off their books, and rather than transfer an antique that doesn't work to a new owner, perhaps giving the Corps an opportunity to transfer a working facility to a new owner so that it does come to a state facility or a public corporation, if the state bill passes, they will inherit basically a working facility rather than one that they have to then go pursue more funds for. So that's the two requests.
Right, and I appreciate that explanation. I hope the folks are listening to that, because the price tag on this transfer was almost upwards of $20 million. And when Commissioner Savas and I were lobbying our congressional delegation, and I particularly was asking for the repairs to be made at $14 million, you know, I did not ask for the seismic upgrades, but you say it's already been authorized, just not appropriated. And so when you're dealing with our national representatives, they understand that too.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any other comments on this before? Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Trent.
Right, so just a reminder, these projects, the history of these of awards for these appropriations are typically smaller awards, even though they can go up to $5 or $6 million. The history of the awards is usually between $500,000 to up to $2 million. Is really where the award sits. So that's why you see, you know, $1.5 million $1.5 million request here for our county projects, and then of course our support for the Army Corps of Engineers just finishing their work. The other thing I would say too is all of this is a very fluid process. We've said it like 4 times, so I apologize, but
That's all right.
our federal agenda gives us a little bit more flexibility. So we have some projects here before you today, but you know, something like broadband, if that were to come up or to be more clear that there's an opportunity for that, our federal agenda also gives us some leverage to go after something like that too.
That's good. Before we continue on to the next section, I want to still talk about the earmarks some more here.
Yes.
And because in your introduction, you say the earmarks usually range from $50,000 to $2 million, but you know, that was like 10 years ago. And we have inflation and we have all this stuff now. And you have targeted 3. I like the targets that you have mentioned here. I was a little surprised about the Sandy Clinic, but hey, we need health care in the rural areas, in the counties in this. Do commissioners have any comments before we go on to the next section? Does anybody want to make a comment about these 3 priorities, or any more discussion about earmarks, which we don't know because it's going to be fluid and our staff has flexibility to do it? Because I listened to yesterday, Representative Wyden had a Facebook town hall, and he has been talking about broadband. Mm-hmm. The man wants broadband. So yes, I would be nimble and flexible in accepting that if it comes our way.
I would just, one more add on broadband is the American Rescue Plan Act, which we'll be talking about later today, creates a little bit of flexibility for broadband too. So similarly, there are just so many funding buckets that are out there right now that people can tap into. This is just one of a few, you know, one of many, and we've targeted in this way here.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to assure everyone, you know, I know that our liaison assignments just happened recently, but I have met with our TS staff and our legislative staff, Trent and all, and so in the last few weeks, they know that I've been pushing them hard to see if we can get some broadband investments in Clackamas County with some of these opportunities that are rolling. So Trent has a little bit of that in his comments here pretty soon. So, but I want to assure you that in agreement with what you said, Chair, we've been hearing that since COVID broke out, that there's new interest in energizing investments in broadband around the country, and rural areas are really the prime target or need for that. So
They sure
we want
are.
to take advantage of it any which way we can. So we'll hear a little bit more about that today.
Yeah, I hope so. That's a good point, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Commissioner Savas said. I've been tracking it at NACO as well. I think we both have, the National Association of Counties. You go on their website and they have best practices of how to expand broadband from across the nation. So it is something, this is what we heard from our superintendents,
Right.
our educators, is that the lack of equity in terms of kids being able to access online learning. So it's going to be pretty important for our rural areas.
That's really good. That's
All right.
really good.
Thank you.
You betcha. Trent, do you want to continue?
I think at this point, I'm going to pass to Chris.
Okay, so the second bucket, as I said, is the bigger Build Back Better infrastructure package coupled with transportation reauthorization. So within this, we have the I-205 Abernathy Bridge, which ODOT has already identified as the project they're going to be putting forward for a large earmark to the tune of $250 million. So we would be in a supportive capacity, submitting a letter of support on that. It was approved by JPAC on their list of federal transportation priorities. And I'll just note that if and when completed, it'll be the first earthquake-ready interstate structure across the Willamette River.
Do we need to have a letter of support ready? You're going to bring that back to the board, or you're just going to automatically do it?
Yeah, since it's already on our agenda, we'll just be sure that's put in.
Okay, great.
Second project, the Bull Run Bridge replacement. This is a project that the county's previously applied for a build grant, multiple build grants for. And we would be seeking $10 million and using $1 million match from the county road fund. And it has quite a bit of support from Weyerhaeuser, Portland Water Bureau, as well as being part of the larger list of projects on JPAC's priority list. Third is generally a Clackamas safety project. This was identified on JPAC's list of transportation priorities for the federal government, and was just really on that list identified as a safety project, and DTD has come in and they are targeting this intersection, 65th, Ellickson Road, Stafford, for an improvement with a request of $10 million, which is part of that JPAC list, and then matching it with $2.3 million in SDCs. And then the fourth project, as we've already talked about, is the Willamette Falls locks, and this is that bigger request to try to make them fully operational prior to transfer from the Army Corps. So somewhere in that $7.5 to $14.5 million range.
Thank you. So regarding the Bull Run Bridge replacement, the Portland Water Bureau is supporting this. Are they helping us with any of the funds on this?
They are not. They are concerned with the use of ratepayer dollars on a facility that is outside of the district.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. Are these priorities listed in order?
Not necessarily, no.
Because I would like to change the order. I like the I-205 being number 1. I would like South 65th and Ellison to be number 2, Willamette Fox 3, although that could be 3, and Bull Run number 4, if it comes down to selection. So I'll say again, I-205 obviously is our number 1, and if whatever we can do to support ODOT in their request. And either 2 or 3 can be Willamette Falls locks or the safety project. Does the board have any thoughts on that? If we have to make a decision.
Well, Chair, I do know that Chris has got more of a list there, so broadband's part of that list, so maybe we should hear the entire package.
Oh, I don't have that listed here.
No, those 4 are the only ones for this bucket.
We're only doing 4.
Okay.
On this
for that
one-
bucket, okay.
Yeah, on this one, Paul. Sorry, Paul. God, I thought I missed something.
No,
So.
And I would also add, as you'll note on here, for Bull Run, for instance, we've identified contingency funding, if unsuccessful, the earmark route, there will be a build grant opportunity, there will be this other opportunity at the state level, so we have other places we can look
Good.
for funding.
Well, thank you for that. That's just my thoughts on this, on the priorities on this, on the Build Better projects. Martha, you have any comments? You okay?
I just had a question about the Clackamas Safety Project. That's the intersection, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to double check. That's where we put the new bridge years ago and that whole roundabout area. I'm just trying to get it in my head geographically. That, basically,
Or is it down by the hospital?
I don't know, that safety project,
No, it's on the east side of I-5, north of Wilsonville, where those 3 roads intersect.
okay.
yeah, just to give Commissioner Schrader some understanding where this is at. So the bridges you're talking about, Martha, were on the north side of I-205. This is actually on the south side of 205, between 205 and Wilsonville along Stafford Road.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners on this? Gary?
So Commissioners, I'm suggesting you have 2 buckets here to approve. Let's start with the last one, the proposed projects for the transportation projects. You can submit as many as you want, you just have to rank them. So Chair Smith has offered a ranking. Are the other commissioners, are you good with that?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay.
And then next is the appropriation request. We can submit up to 4. There are 3 listed. Are you okay with those 3? Are there anything you'd like to add or change?
Commissioners, I'm good.
Good.
if staff has recognized them along with Summit Strategies, they seem to be doing a good job for us too, if that's what you think. Hey, man, I'd be happy with one each at this point, right?
Okay, so you have your direction, team. We're good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
You
Thank you,
betcha, bye-bye.
All right,
Next up, Gary.
Government Camp Summit Rest Area Redevelopment Work Group Appointment. If Emily's willing to help me with this, she's here in the room. The group is seeking a commissioner representative, and we have a proposal for you. Emily, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Emily Klepper, County Administration. Last summer, Oregon Solutions pulled together a couple of stakeholders and did some interviews looking at the opportunities for redevelopment and the many interests existing right now in the Mount Hood area. There's economic development interests, tourism, transportation and transit, networking that needs to be looked at. So Oregon Solutions, we're so grateful to them, put together a draft proposal, put together a draft proposal, which the governor has now approved as an official project and work team. So we are looking and recommending a commissioner sit on this project. We're suggesting Commissioner Savas as the transportation representative. Their first focus is going to be looking at the rest area up there on Highway 26 and the potential relocation of that, and then which will lead to other energies.
Wow.
Okay.
At least it's open, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Martha, you're in the
I was
queue.
going to ask Commissioner Savas, do you mind if I join you on this every so often? We tag team on a couple of things. This one's.
Yeah.
And
there's no-
anything in
yeah.
Govy would be pretty interesting, I think, if that's okay with everybody.
Fine with me. It's up to you
It's up
guys.
to you. It's up to you, Paul. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't have
Okay.
I don't have a problem with
Okay.
Commissioner Schneider joining. This is actually the third or fourth meeting.
Oh, okay, good.
Or gathering of this group. I think that the board okayed something similar to this, the same area, the same project, but it's taking different
Okay.
paths, if you will. So for continuity's sake, I'm more than happy to continue on.
Oh, I think you ought to.
I would like Commissioner Savas to continue on with this, and then Martha, you want to join him
Yeah, if I-
whenever.
When I can fit it in.
We
I mean,
have,
you're the
I'm
primary.
scrolling through the document,
Looks
and
interesting.
on page 13, 14, there's a whole list of interviewees on there, which is nice. I think they've done their work. Regarding the government camp area, is the rest area the only project they're considering? Do we know?
No, there's a lot of energy up there to do redevelopment
Yeah.
at various businesses and locations up there. They have to start with the transportation needs for this location, or for this overall area in order to make it work. To
Right.
do any kind of investment in that area really needs a functional transportation system.
Yeah.
And they're already looking at transit options too, so.
Okay, I was up there this winter a couple of times, snowshoeing and all that kind of fun stuff. It was really busy. And, trying to pull out on Highway 26, even just to head downhill. I sat at the stop sign. By the way, it was a stop sign and not a traffic light, which I thought was very odd. And then just maneuvering around across from, the north side of 26 over to the south side of 26, where that newer facility is. They have that bridge that goes over the top, which is nice. But yeah, this is very exciting for me. Gary, what kind of action do we need to take on this?
I suggest you make a motion to formally approve which commissioner you'd like to name to this.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to formally approve that Commissioner Savas be our representative on this Oregon Solutions project to government camp.
Seconded.
Second?
The motion has been made by Chair Smith and seconded by Commissioner Scholl to have Commissioner Savas attend, and of course, Commissioner
Yeah. and I could
Schrader
just-
will attend when she can. And any further discussion on this? Hearing none. Christina, can you take the poll?
Of course. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And And Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Emily Klepper.
May I add just one thing? So because there are so many interests happening, and the county has a stake in it, we have pulled together an internal group, working group, that represents BCS, our economic development arm, tourism, transportation, land use. So we coordinate amongst ourselves what's happening. And so I think that would be an appropriate place too, Commissioner Schrader, for you to participate.
Yeah,
And we'll
thank
make sure that
Oh, that's
Commissioner
nice.
Savas too, of course.
Yeah, thank you for that.
And then if Commissioners Schrader and Savas can report back to us every once in a while, just like Commissioners Fisher and Schrader are reporting back on NACO and AOC issues, I think that's just really important for our board to be letting, the folks out there listening know what's going on. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Gary.
Great, thank you. Next, advisory boards and commission appointments. Christina, please go ahead.
All righty, there are two ABCs for today. The first one is the Clackamas County Library Board, staffed by the Business and Community Services. They currently have 5 openings due to the creation of a new combined library advisory board for Oak Lodge and Gladstone libraries. 8 applications were received and 6 of them are recommended, 5 regular members and 1 alternate member. The members go as such: Deborah Bukowski, Grover Bornfeld, Doug Jones, Leslie Shirk, and Natalie Smith. Those would be the 5 regular members, and the alternate member would be Kathleen Gabriel. And the second ABC is for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Budget Committee and is staffed by the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. They currently have 3 openings. They received 4 applications, and 2 are being recommended for appointment. They are Macy Gast, and that would be for their 5th term, Dennis, Eric, Sean, and that would be for their 4th term. And these are your ABC recommendations for today.
And these are 4-year terms or 3-year terms, or
Let me,
is it expires in '24? Must be 3-year terms.
3-year.
Okay. Okay, great.
Move for approval?
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval, and Commissioner Fisher has seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Christina, please call the poll.
okay, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Up next.
Thank you. Next, review of your board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, April 1st, 2021. No fooling, it is April Fool's Day. There'll be wildfire updates, COVID updates, Housing Authority consent agenda, a presentation proclaiming April 2021 as Grange Month, a public hearing, which is the first reading of the ordinance to amend the county code about determination of waste management fees. This is regarding the metro tipping fees that you previously discussed, Commissioners. Then a board discussion item to finalize your decision on the utility vehicle, all-terrain vehicle on public roads as an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act. You had those 2 prior meetings. This is for you to finalize your decision on that action. And then you have a lengthy consent agenda for the normal Clackamas business as well as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. So you will have a full meeting this Thursday. If you do have any questions that I can help or staff can help answer for you prior to Thursday, please let me know. We're happy to do that.
Thanks, Gary.
Next, Veterans Advisory Council. So Commissioners, I told you that I would do a review of the Veterans Advisory Council after the February 25th, 2021 meeting of the Veterans Advisory Council, where the group did invite Commissioner Scholl to that meeting. And after that meeting, there were concern by some commissioners as well as members of the public who had some concerns about the tenor of that meeting and how the meeting was conducted. So with your approval, I asked you to please pause and allow me to review that meeting itself, the video of that meeting. And I additionally interviewed and discussed or talked with several members of the Veterans Advisory Council myself, staff who staff that council, as well as several county commissioners. There was discussion of perhaps to disband the committee, and my recommendation is not to disband the Veterans Advisory Council, but rather have several action items I propose that we do ask, that you ask the Veterans Advisory Council to undertake. I will say that after my review of the February 25th, 2021 meeting, I felt from my perspective, it actually was a quite respectful meeting. There were some strong opinions shared, but the meeting itself appeared to be professional. It was coordinated by a facilitator, a mediator who works for Clackamas County in Resolution Services. While strong opinions were shared, I felt it was a respectful meeting and that decorum was held, the meeting was conducted, every individual had a chance to express their opinions. With that, though, here's what I recommend, Commissioners. I see there are some opportunities for enhancement of the Veterans Advisory Committee, and they are such. I do suggest that the committee look at its work plan and its goals and refocus that work plan and goals, not only to advise the Health, Housing, and Human Services Department veterans staff, which it does, and to advise the Board of County Commissioners, which it does, but also to have a plan for what the committee members themselves would like to achieve or accomplish during their year of service. Next, to determine how veterans priorities can be better aligned with the Clackamas County's Performance Clackamas plans, both the county's plans and the Department of Health, Housing, and Human Services. Next, to review the bylaws of the Veterans Advisory Committee to see what updates or revisions, if any, the group feels it could make. My opinion, there is room for improvement in the bylaws of the committee, of the council, including looking at the membership of the council. Is it large enough? Is it too large? The requirements to serve on the committee. I think that's an opportunity to review the bylaws. Next, determine how to better engage with the Board of County Commissioners. I suggest this is one of the prime priority committees of the board, and perhaps there's a quarterly check-in with the entire board, or at least an annual meeting of the entire Veterans Council plus the Board of County Commissioners, to be determined. Look at the committee structure itself and how it is supported by staff and the Department of Health, Housing, and Human Services. And then finally, so my advice is the Veterans Advisory Committee, Council, take these steps themselves and report back to you, Commissioners, by June 1st, 2021. So that would be the next 2 meetings of the Veterans Advisory Council. They can review these recommendations and come back to you with their recommendations of how to move forward on these plans. So that would be my suggestion, Commissioners, not to disband the committee, but task the committee, the council, to consider ways it can focus on the things I just mentioned, to enhance its work, to help us, to help you and the staff better support veterans in Clackamas County, and have a really clearly defined work plan and to focus on that work plan going forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about my recommendations or what I observed at the council meeting.
Gary, you mentioned bylaws. Do they have a mission statement, an overarching mission statement?
Why, yes, and is simply that the council will serve as an advisory body to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners and the Department of Health, Housing, and Human Services and advise on the following: all matters relating to the provision of services to veterans, their families, and dependents, how to ensure the needs of veterans, their families, and dependents are recognized and addressed in a timely manner, and to advise on current issues facing veterans, their families, and dependents, and make recommendations regarding those issues.
It seems to me if they would abide by their original mission statement, that would be really something. You know, I haven't heard anything out of the Veterans Committee in a long time. I used to sit on it when I was formerly a commissioner here. Maybe there needs to be some adjustments to the mission statement as well, and I know we have some commissioners who want to speak in that. You said a mediator attended this particular meeting. Does a mediator normally attend the Veterans Council meetings?
They do not, no.
And so, to me, that's a red flag right there. If a mediator was needed at this particular meeting, somebody obviously knew it was going to be controversial. Somebody knew ahead of time, and somebody else was blindsided. I find that behavior not acceptable, Gary, and I hope that's addressed. Right?
Yes?
I mean, that's just an obvious red flag for me. Holy cow. Christina, is Commissioner Savas in?
Yes.
Commissioner Savas, go.
Yeah, Gary, getting back to your recommendation, I don't know if my colleagues will join me on this thought, but I like your approach going forward, and I don't have any problems with that. But I do want to make this statement, and maybe if my colleagues want to join me in this, but I would certainly like to convey an interest in order for them to fulfill their mission, and if they want to change the mission or whatever they want to do in the next couple of months, that's fine. But there needs to be a certain level of empowerment that allows them to have, some meaningful productivity or outcomes of that. And so there needs to be some, with some of these citizen committees, they don't do very much because they don't really have that opportunity. But I guess just want to make sure that there's some level of empowerment so they can actually accomplish the mission on behalf of the veterans and the families they're trying to serve. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thanks. So just some background information.
Yes.
In 2008, that's when we realized that we were having a lot of deployments from Camp Withicum, and became involved with them. And up at that point, and that's actually when Governor Kulonogowski also realized that this was a major, huge issue across the state with all of our military folks. So we really had to push really hard to make this front and center. And at the time, we didn't actually have a Veterans Committee as much as we had what I would call Team Clackamas. And it was a group of providers and folks interested in helping veterans from around the county. That was a pretty broad group, which worked really well. Then I believe when Commissioner Bernard came on board, they did the Veterans Committee, which I think was an excellent idea. The observation I had is if these folks are staffed up to a level where they can really accomplish something, I think it would kind of get us back to the good old days of Team Clackamas, where we really we had a personal relationship with Withicum. We worked very hard with their military families coordinator. Gina, who was one of our VSOs, was actively involved in not just doing the VSO work, which is kind of boxed and technical, but also kind of doing outreach and doing things like stand downs, things of that sort. There's always a little pushback with the VSOs because some VSOs think their job's a little more limited than that. But we do have some folks who might want to have a broader opportunity to really serve veterans, I think, there. The other thing is that since we've now built a relationship with the Army Reserve, which is also at Withicum now, with those generals, there's a lot of things we could be doing. Speaking to DJ Ruger from the VFW the other day, unbeknownst to me, I mean, they actually adopt battalions. They actually do Christmas parties. They are actively involved with military families and the needs that they have. And having kind of that energy back again would be really fantastic, I think. And I really want to make sure that that we get good staffing for this and people who are willing to be entrepreneurial, Gary, because that's the way we were before. And I always I don't want to criticize, but what my observation was that this group, it kind of fell into, well, it's just another meeting to have, and yes, everybody talks about it. But there were no real actionable items. And I think that we need to expand it, and I think the people that are there would be really excited that are on the committee now to be working on this together. So that's kind of what I'd like to see. And I hate to keep talking about the good old days, but, there you go.
Well, that's what I remember when I served on there.
Yeah.
We served together, didn't we,
Yeah,
on
we
that
did.
for a
I
while?
was back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, and, there were events that we attended. I remember
Yeah.
the stand-ups and stand-downs. We probably don't have that now because we're not deployed and we're not at a war, thank you very much. But there certainly could be something along those lines. And to more involved the VSOs in the county. We have 3, correct?
We have 4.
We have 4 now? Okay,
four.
good. See, there we go. And because, so I have a friend a young man who came out of 3 deployments in Afghanistan, and he needed veteran services. And he lives clear out on Beaver Creek Road,
Yeah.
kind of not too far from me. And he wanted to go to college, and he was having trouble getting his benefits. And I says, well, go to the Clackamas County VSO. And no, he didn't do that. He went to one in Multnomah County. I says, well, why did you do that? He says, because they're helping me. I says, well, our local can help you. Well, it was a recommendation of whoever his head of command was to go into Portland. And I kind of wonder, it's not because our Clackamas County VSOs are lacking. I think they're very good, but I don't think there's enough information put out to our public that they can come right here. I also think access at our VSO, I've heard that access is not good. I think we need some in-person. Gary, I don't know how it's staffed. I would like a report back on our VSO if there's bodies in the office, because a lot of our veterans prefer that as how they want to be served, by talking directly to a person, not a Zoom. And I think it's better for our VSOs to be able to meet these veterans who need services and to accurately evaluate and communicate with them. I think that's very important. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, Gary, could you send your recommendations to us on an email?
Yes.
So I can share that with other people?
Yes, I will.
And I understand that you then, do you need the board to approve your recommendations, or are you just going to send that to the VAC and ask them to take action on it, report to the board on 21 June?
I would, if you agree with my recommendations, I would suggest you make a formal motion so that I can give that.
We
to the
can
council.
do that. I just want to be able to make sure every commissioner has an opportunity to either add or give comment on what you said, Gary.
Yeah, and
Commissioner Scholl?
the other thing is that most everybody who served in the military knows what a battle rhythm is. It's a daily battle rhythm, and that's how we get the staff in the military organization synchronized on all the things that happen in the course of the day. And what our VAC needs is an annual battle rhythm that incorporates all the issues and concerns of veterans in the county. And so that it's scheduled every year, and then they break down each one of those tasks to critical tasks they need to conduct, so that nothing falls through the crack in terms of getting out to helping our veterans. The other thing, too, is yesterday I had the pleasure of having a tour of Fort Kennedy. And one of the things that was mentioned there is that our VAC needs to magnify its capabilities by having much more coordination with the other agencies out there that also deal with veterans. That could be VACs from our neighboring counties, it could be Fort Kennedy, it could be the VA, et cetera, et cetera. So I look forward to seeing what the VAC comes up with on the 21st of June, Gary, and we'll
Great.
take it from there.
Gee, I'm not sure who was first. Commissioner Savas? Paul? Oh, okay.
That was my old,
Oh, okay.
I don't have my hand up.
All righty. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for that, Commissioner Schull, because that's really the way Team Clackamas behaved. And at the time, what they were, you're right, they would get together, they would do tasks, and then they would deploy and get it done, come back and, talk with each other. And it was much more of an active, logistically active, where there was more outreach and relationships. And I do think that that's what we need to be doing really considerably, because we're letting relationships kind of go by the wayside that we really don't have to.
Right.
So thanks for that.
Any other comments from our commissioners?
Okay.
Well, I'll accept a motion that we accept the administrators' recommendations for the Veterans Advisory Council with our additions, and I think Gary wrote those down.
Yes.
Okay,
I would second that.
Martha made,
I'll move it. Okay, move.
Martha Schrader moved that we accept Administrator Schmidt's recommendations, and Commissioner Scholl second that. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Christina, would you call the poll?
Of course, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you, Gary. I think that's some good work, and I think it's good we're going to have continued discussions of this. I invite the public to come and offer their comments on what they heard today, if they have any, and we keep the lines of communication open on that. Thank you very much. Up next.
Thank you, Chair. Next, Commissioner Fisher had added to the list Leaders for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council update.
Okay, thank you, Gary. In our packets is a letter from LEDIC, hoping everybody had a chance to review that. And basically, what the request is that our commission make a formal statement against the uptick in violence against people of Asian descent. The information that they provided is, leads us to some specific incidences that are close to home, but they also have a frame of a recommended resolution that they had suggested. And so what I guess my ask of this group is if we would like to move forward, I've been in conversations with Martine and also PGA, is to have them incorporate the frame of the resolution that LEDIC had suggested, but make it Clackamas County specific and have us review that at next Tuesday's issue session.
Commissioner Savas, you're in the queue.
Yeah, well, so back when we, back following the unfortunate incident with George Floyd, we spent quite a bit of time discussing responding with the resolution. And, we did that, and I think there was discussion about whether or not we should make it specifically for African Americans or whatnot. I believe Commissioner Schrader and I were, I think we were advocating that we include all people of color to make it as broad as possible. And we got there, and we've, since I think we reaffirmed that. And I don't know if as I was thinking about it this morning, I was inclined to make a motion to include, Asian Pacific, API, Asian Pacific Islanders into the resolution. But they're also, it's kind of redundant in the sense that they're kind of included in that. And knowing that this is the frequency of these unfortunate events and actions of violence against people is seems to be on, perhaps potentially on the rise, it appears. So with that in mind, and looking at what Lake Oswego did, I'm really wondering if maybe, because I think the resolution is well written and very well intended, and I think it covers all that. Maybe what we could do is kind of emulate what Lake Oswego did, which I just discovered here in the last hour, and that is they took a stand of solidarity with the Asian Pacific community, and I think maybe that might be something that's more fitting.
That's interesting concept you pose. Commissioner Schrader, you're in.
Yeah, I do believe we have to do something. I'm not going to belabor the fact that this is a personal issue for me.
Uh-huh.
So I do really feel, having had direct experience with this, it would be great, whatever form that takes, whether it's this Paul or Lake Oswego. I'm not going to belabor that point, but it would be good to say something.
Yeah, I do think we need to do something. Commissioner Fisher, you say Asian in this particular document. Community.
Which document are we referring to?
The one that you submitted to
Asian American and
the
Pacific.
LEDIC. They want us to do a statement condemning anti-Asian discrimination and violence. I'm referring to on our packet here.
Okay.
Okay, Asian community. Now, Paul mentioned Pacific Islanders.
It's the same.
Is it the
It's
same?
it's
Hey,
a
look,
group
I'm
together.
trying to cover the bases here. I do kind of like the idea. Well, no, they're not the same.
They're not the same, but they are, the AAPI community, they work together. So Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
Okay.
So they're yeah, so
So I
it's,
would think the language would need to include that. Now,
Yeah.
I read this earlier, and this is my opinion of this and any other resolutions and stands of solidarity that we will take, and I assume there's going to be more. I think that the language we use has energy, and it resonates, and it has a frequency, and it goes out, and it's heard all over. And I think we need to be careful not to repeat the injustices that have been done to these communities in our resolutions. I would like our statements to be more positive in nature. For instance, I do not want to use the word hate in any resolution because that is repeating a negative, and in my opinion, it sends out a negative frequency and a negative energy field. I do like Paul's idea of taking a stand of solidarity. I also like his idea of including language in the last resolution the board did for AAPI groups, and maybe someday in the future we'll have to add more to that. But that document that was passed last year, I kind of look at that as a working document, as a living document that we can continue to refer to. And maybe in that, I don't know that, was the term BIPOC even listed in that particular document? I read it, but it just now came to my mind. Maybe we want to list that, although I think it's probably referred to, but the acronym is not listed specifically. Those are some of my ideas here today. Any other comments on that? Commissioner Savas, I think you want to say something?
Well, just kind of wondering what we suggest our next steps, and maybe our staff, Martine, her department, and can work on some, bring something back. And I would suggest we do it swiftly so we can get that, in front of us as soon as possible. But we can update. Both ideas are great, and I'm all for it. But I think moving quickly is probably more important. I don't want it to take 3 weeks like it did the last time.
And I would agree with that. Gary, is Martine listening on this today?
She's not available right now, but she will.
Okay, well, this is going to be my recommendation, that we list the AAPI on our current resolution, and we also separately take a stand of solidarity in support of AAPI. Those are two separate actions that we're requiring. We can bring that back next week at our policy sessions. Is that, that is enough lead time for our staff?
Oh, we can make that happen.
Sonia Fisher, please, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So because I was at the meeting as the liaison, I think it's really important that we listen to our leaders of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And the one piece that they really mentioned was having not just platitudes or words, but a call to action. And in the sample resolution that they provided, there is a call for action, as Commissioner Savas states, which I would define as a call for solidarity. But I want us to be sensitive to what they are recommending to us, and Martine was heavily involved, so I would like her to help us and to make that recommendation.
Sure.
And as far as changing the resolution against violence, I don't think we should add another group. If you read that resolution, it starts off with the motivation for that resolution was the violence against African Americans, and then we broaden it in the end to include all people, but that was carefully constructed to acknowledge the history, the 400 years of slavery and the foundations of racism in this country. So I wouldn't suggest changing that. But next on our agenda, and Gary will introduce this.
Well, wait a minute, I know what's next on your agenda,
Okay.
but we're going to finish, this has not been finished yet. I appreciate your energy on this, Commissioner Fisher, but we need to finish this particular item first. Gary?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't going to move next to the agenda. I was
Okay.
just going to say that your comments about the resolution being a living, breathing document is absolutely true. And so
Well, yeah, and as
we
a,
have made progress on the action items on that, and that may be something which I was going to suggest that we may want to include, I want to get Martine's advice on that, but in this resolution, to state our positive action steps that we have taken on these issues. That was all I was going to say.
So I look at a document like that, and if we want to identify it as a living, breathing document, then we have to be willing to make changes to it, and additions to it, and/or subtractions to it. That's how I view a living, breathing document. Christina, who's in the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Commissioner Savas, go ahead.
Yeah, just to tie this all together, kind of wrap it up, maybe Martine can take a listen to what our discussion today, incorporate her recommendations. I'm not in necessarily disagreeing with anyone per se, or the committee's work. It sounds like it's good, but one thing I will say about the resolution is it should be, currently it's signed by the past board, and having the current board signatures on it, I think would be, help validate our commitment to that.
Well, that's a good point, Commissioner Savas. Gary, do you have enough instruction on this particular issue?
Not yet, so I'm hearing revise the resolution and to do a statement. So is that correct? Two different
Well,
paths here.
yeah.
Okay. The resolution will take longer. That's probably about a 3-week process, whereas a statement we can have for you next Tuesday.
Well, then do the statement.
The statement first, and then we'll
Okay.
start the process of the resolution update. As soon as next Tuesday, it'll just take a week or two to get it on your business meeting agenda after that. So we'll follow both paths, and we'll have an update for you next Tuesday at issues.
Sounds good.
I don't know that there's consensus about necessarily revising the resolution that the prior board.
Well, we can
talked
take a
about
vote.
Condemning violence and racism.
Yeah, we can take a vote on it if you'd like, Commissioner Fisher. I'll accept a motion from Commissioner Savas.
I move we update the resolution, at least the signatures, and take the advisement of Martine and the committee's work into the thought of a proposal to the board on the resolution.
Okay, that I will second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Gary, was that motion clear? Not really.
No. Sorry, it's not, but I get the general idea. So
Okay.
to have a new resolution and direct staff to bring back to you options of what could be in it. That's basically what it is.
Yes.
That wasn't what it was.
Okay.
I mean, it was that we update it for signature, and if staff recommends changing the resolution.
Martha?
Yeah, can I make a comment? Because it was very important to me with the last resolution, again, because of personal experience that we, I think Commissioner Savas was with me on this, at the BIPOC community, that it's a broader issue about systemic racism. Because, again, there are multiple groups that have been impacted by these issues across the board. So I've always preferred a broader statement because of that. Okay, just saying.
why don't you put your input in there? That'd be great.
Sure. I can do that.
Any other comments? Christina, call the poll.
Yes, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And I think we have another one to consider, Gary.
All right, next is a progress update on the resolution condemning violence and racism that the board approved June 2020 last year. Commissioner Fisher.
Okay. So part of our conversations with Martine were to potentially update what we have succeeded with, and she gave me some information regarding where we are with this resolution. And as you can look at it, there are action items at the bottom of the resolution. And so one of them was Clackamas County will review all its policies and ordinances for any discriminatory impacts and practices and encourage other jurisdictions to do the same. Quite a lot of progress has been made on that with our staff in looking and reviewing the recommendations. And so I'm just giving that update. That may be something that could go into this statement. That was one of Martine's suggestions. And then the other piece that we had talked about is listening and learning opportunities with communities of color. And there is a list of activities that this commission has engaged in, and so updating on that as well. It was very important to the LEDIC community that we talk about action and not just words. And so I just wanted to bring that to the board to just be reminded of that based on Martine's suggestion.
So regarding the progress that has been made on the resolution document in question, I think we need somebody to come before us and talk about what has been accomplished with that. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I mean, I could read, Martine did this, let's see here.
And how does, what I'm saying is, I want it to be presented, I want it to be really presented is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I don't know how we want to do that to make sure that it has the biggest impact, right? Gary, you have any comments on that?
We could schedule a policy session.
All right.
I think maybe it's in conjunction with your efforts to write a new resolution. We can give you an update on the prior resolution to help guide you on what the new
Yeah,
resolution.
maybe the update can happen first, and then we can go into that. Christina, does Paul want to talk?
Yes.
No, he's okay.
I just want to echo what Gary said. Let's just bring it back to our work session and incorporate the two together. And with a new board, it'd probably be a great idea that we all embrace this and come up with some agreed upon language and signatures. So I'm good to go.
Okay. All right. Gary, you have instruction?
Yes,
Great.
I do.
Up next.
All right, finally is Commissioner Communications.
Well, who wants to start first? Commissioner Scholl.
Yes. Thursday, I sat in on the AOC Council Forest Trust Land Counties, and John DiLorenzo briefed us on the status of the $1.65 billion award from the court to the counties.
Yeah.
And I would ask our legal office if they can't take a look at that meeting. It's online, or I can sit down and talk to you about it. But I think it'd be really good to get just a really quick assessment from your perspective of where we're at on that and what, maybe identify things that the board can do to effect the action down there. It doesn't look to me like it's going to be a very quick process. And finally,
Yeah, before you, we have a request from a commissioner for a briefing. Gary, what's the process for that?
Yes, your Commissioner Shell, your policy advisor is already on it, so it's being handled
okay.
right now.
Thank
Okay,
you very
good.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just one other comment. Again, I mentioned I had a tour of Fort Kennedy yesterday. I was very impressed with that organization. They have a very great attitude. Their ability to reach out to the community is pretty impressive. And I would encourage our VAC to become associated with them and help them and let Fort Kennedy help our VAC in return. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, I went and did a field trip out to see those, let me think, how do I say it? Is it tons of debris? It was 13,000, gosh, I can't remember how we
Tons?
referred to it.
Cubic
It's
meters.
cubic. Thank you, Mark. It was massive. So
Really?
I just have to say that and we've had 1,000 trucks going out and cleaning up this debris on our right of way. And while we were there, and it's such of course, I'm sort of geeky this way, but it was so interesting that PGA was there to do a video of it, just to explain, this is what happens when there's an ice storm and all of this comes down, and we have to keep our right-of-way clear, not only for transportation of vehicles, but for safety of our residents, to keep our economy moving. And as I was looking at this huge pile of debris, it really made me think of the work that's happening on the ground is really the intersection of all of our priorities. Preserving honoring our natural resources, ensuring safe communities, a vibrant economy, our infrastructure, and trust in government so that people know that we're getting the work done. But that visual was really overwhelming. They did take some pictures when those come, and just so you can see the pile and how little the people are in the midst of the pile of twigs. I guess it's twigs and trees and, yeah, so that was really interesting.
Good. And where was this pile?
Where is it? It's over where Barton Park.
Yeah, that's where I thought.
Yeah, when I took a tour, oh gosh, years ago, I remember the staff saying, and if we had an earthquake, this is where all the debris would go.
Right.
And so when I was there, I thought, my gosh, this is so much debris. Where would all the debris go if we had more debris? And apparently we have a whole other area, so,
Well, and you think about it, it doesn't take into account all the private owners who have been burning. And for weeks,
Yes.
I would drive home in South County and just smoke, and it was kind of like a PTSD experience from the forest fires again. Oh, God, I'm smelling this, and everything was covered in smoke again. It was just really tremendous. I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, we're not doing this again, are we? Oh, yes, we are. We're bringing our debris. Yeah.
And just the other thing to report, we'll be hearing more about this in the future, but just to let you know, the Association of Oregon Counties is really doing the work to look at the due structure and making it more equitable across the state. And so there's going to be a recommendation that will come to the board, and then it will come, and we'll be hearing more about it, but it basically is a base amount and then some variations based on a formula that they've worked really hard on. And it was, I'm just catching up on this because I am just very new to the Budget and Finance Committee. Commissioner Schrader, I see you smiling underneath your mask. You know how long the group has been working on this. What was absolutely remarkable after all that work is that committee had a unanimous vote to take that to the full board for their review. So I guess that was a big step. There was lots of cheers and hooting and hollering yesterday.
Wow, very nice, very nice.
So more to come on that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and then District 8, we
Oh, yeah.
will be having a meeting. All three chairs think it's a great idea for them to share the priorities for each of the counties, and then we will, and when that will be scheduled, I'm not sure, getting all of our calendars together, but building that sense of connection for the region through District 8 is something that everybody's excited to do, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So more to come on that as well.
Well, last night at our tri-chairs meeting, that came up, the District
good.
8, yes, and we, all three, of course, want to do that, and we said we will do it as soon as we can get it scheduled, which is a challenge, as you know.
Yep.
Coordinating all the schedules. Thank you for that. Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I just want to share an experience. I know it's on the top of mind of a lot of people, but on Friday afternoon, I went and saw a friend of mine who has closed his business in Portland. And so we were chatting for a while about that and where his equipment, where the investments are going. It was a significant operation, by the way. So a lot of the equipment and the products he was producing are moved out of state in a more business-friendly environment, as he put it. And what's on top of mind not only is the welfare of businesses and seeing the local businesses being impacted and not being able to do business in this state, but the other thing that struck me again was the growth of the homeless people that are living on the streets throughout Portland, because he lives his business is in the area, in the industrial area of roughly where the TriMet station is, off of, I can't remember the name of the street, but nonetheless, the point of the matter is that he also has noticed, and so the business neighbors nearby have noticed, a substantial increase in the growth of the homeless camps around, and it's just a sad state of affairs. I know it is something that's been on the top of mind. A few weeks ago, I sent you a link. I think it was K2 News about a documentary that K2 News did. Also sent you a link from a op-ed that was done in the LA Times from someone who's very heavily involved in the crisis down there as well. But I really have concerns. I really I really am trying to stress, at least my observation, I'm not the only one who sees this, but that we are going deeper into poverty. And, you know, it's like if you have a boat that is sinking, and I know that people are going to panic and start to bail the water out of the boat, but someone's got to fix the hole in the boat. And it's more the preventative side, the proactive, what can we do to stop or to slow it down? And I really believe there's a relationship. I'm not the only one. There's professors that believe this too, that there is a relationship between our policies, land use and transportation policies, and other policies that are aggravating the growth of homelessness. And one thing I will just advise you to do, and because I was advised as well, is that don't look at the percentages any longer and focus on them so much as the actual number. The actual number of the homeless people across this country and here in the state, the number is growing. The percentage is slowly diminishing. And the reason it's slowly diminishing is that when you put the percentage in, you're not calculating accurately or parsing out the growth of population. So the population growth is increasing nationwide, as is here in the state. And when you use percentages, it skews the numbers to where you don't really see the homeless problem as vividly as you would if you actually look at the numbers. So if you take into account the number of growth of homelessness, and then you factor in how many new homes are being built, so people are moving from homelessness, transitioning into housing, that number becomes more evident that we're losing ground, we're not gaining ground. So just want to put that out there, top of mind for everyone. It was just shocking for me to see every time I go to Portland that the problem is vividly worse every time I drive down there. That's what I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
All right, thank you, Chair Smith. So it has been a very busy week for me. A few things that I've been working on is the Willamette Falls Heritage Area. We had a meeting just on Monday where we're in the process of hiring a new executive director because the executive director, who's an absolutely wonderful human being, is retiring because of health reasons. And as you know, the Heritage Area really is the Heritage Area which is including the falls, plus the landings. And we continue to really try and get particularly Congressman Schrader, to put forth that ask at the national level. So we would have one of the biggest national heritage areas west of the Mississippi here in our backyard, which will certainly help with tourism and will certainly put us which will certainly put us on the map for, I hope, continued funding for the locks and the redevelopment of the Willamette, the legacy project that we continue to work with the Grand Ronde Tribe and our other partners. Did attend quite a few NACO meetings last week, including the general session. I'm going to let my colleagues know anything that you would like to hear and read. They've taped the entire thing, everything from broadband to, the American Rescue Act and what that's going to entail for counties across the United States. And you can actually go to their website and click on our county and get the information of how much money it looks like we're going to get funneled our way. And they are collecting stories from various counties. So that might be something that we think about doing, about how we're managing the money, what it's going towards, and what are some of the best practices. So at that level, I think our county has consistently won multiple awards from NACO for entrepreneurship in delivering services and how we manage things. So I'm hopeful that that will be something that we continue to do and will happen again. The other piece is that yesterday, speaking about the Association of Oregon Counties, I had an opportunity to attend the executive board session where we evaluated our new AOC director, Gina Nickel, and she got very, very, very high ratings on almost all fronts. She really is doing an excellent job bringing the organization together and really starting to solidify we like to think the relationships with counties across the states. I mean, across our state, pretty much, you know. Remember, we're 36 strong. She has talked most recently to some of the urban counties in particular about why it is important to stay involved in the association, not the least of which is actually trying to build relationships with some of our more rural counties so we can understand where people are coming from. So good job, Gina. And also we took a tour of a building right across the street from the local government center that AOC is actually looking to potentially purchase, is to sell their interest in the building they are in now, but actually to have a larger building with more opportunities for commissioners who are traveling to the area to have office space should they need it, meeting space, and really a larger area to conduct business. So just to let you know, that's in the works.
And that is needed. I've been down there many times,
Yep.
and as you know, it gets a bit cramped.
It does, and they're working on it, and we'll see, again, with the budget being stabilized now. At one point, we were on the verge of really not doing too well. And, but now everything is stabilized, and as Commissioner Fisher mentioned, they're working on finances, a new dues structure that will continue to stabilize the organization. Finally, I worked with our economic development staff yesterday on the comprehensive economic development plan that we have been working with Greater Portland, Inc., and to Commissioner Savis's point, that's the group that's been working on how do we get our region out of the issues that we've been facing with homelessness, with job creation, with all of those good things. And we're going to be working very hard on that. They've talked about resiliency. They've talked about, how are we going to move out of this pandemic? What's going to happen when things open? And that conversation is going to continue to be had at the regional level. So that's been my week, and it's not over yet. So there you go.
Thank
Okay.
you. I know all commissioners are very busy on doing their work. I'm continuing to meet with the mayors of the county and really any elected officials who want to, as the new chair-elect. Those meetings were delayed somewhat by our ice storm and all of the recovery and implementation efforts, and we're just now getting back. Our mayors are getting back, and our mayors have thanked Clackamas County profusely for the actions that we took during the ice storm to help them open shelters and offer assistance when we can. Nancy Bush is working with the mayors of each of the cities to compile a list of their expenses for hopeful reimbursement from FEMA. As she said, she's been out here, and so I think the coordinated effort during this last emergency was looked upon with some kudos. So I just want to thank my staff for their work on that. I'm also meeting, too, with constituents. Maybe it's not as many as I can, the schedule allows, but constituents continue to have issues, and they're coming in and talking with me and meeting with me in my office, and I'm still doing that. I set aside one day a week for constituent work on this, but, really the staff does a lot of it for me. I have one day a week set aside for department staff, and that's usually on Mondays. My constituent work is on Wednesdays usually, except this week, Commissioner Savis and I have an all-day marathon picking an ABC board, or interviewing, I should say. And as we know, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, this board is busy doing policy and business work. So that's what I've been doing. And on a fun note, as I was driving home on Beaver Creek Road last night, or afternoon, I go around a corner, and lo and behold, there's Clackamas County road crews clearing out the ditches, and I was so happy to see that. So Dan Johnson, tell the crew, kudos, thank you. And it's an effort. It is an effort. Just so you know, you come upon, there's a flagger, because one lane is blocked, right? So you have two flaggers on the other end. Then you have several trucks, and then you have a pickup, and you have crews with their chainsaws, and then you have a chipper, and you have all this. So I counted maybe 4 or 5 trucks out there just cleaning the effort up. But I'm going to tell you, it is looking good. I'm so appreciative of that. Thank you for coming out to not only the road that I live on, but the others as well. And so my point is, here it is, March 30th. The storm happened February 11th. We're still cleaning up, and we will be continuing to clean up. But thank you very much, county road crew, for doing that. With that in mind, I think we are recessed, Gary, until 1:30.
Yes.
Thank you very much.